Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this afternoon, I'm joined by Sharon Bannister from London, and she's a practitioner of craniosacral therapy. I have to check down and read my phone for that one because it's a bit of a mouthful. It's not a term I've come across before, but I'm sure you'll explain what that is as we go through. How are you doing today, Sharon? You okay?
I'm doing really well. I know it's a bit of a mouthful. What it is, it's just a convoluted name for somebody who is using the original palpation skills of osteopathy. So it's literally like being an osteopath without all the crunching of the bones.
Okay, all right then. So, yeah, obviously osteopath I've come across before, but yeah, so this is just a particular type of osteopath or
Yeah,
osteo.
we
Yeah.
call ourselves biodynamic. So
Okay.
there's various different. Unfortunately, our title isn't protected like an osteopath. So, for instance, if you come by the school where I teach, you've got to do a minimum of 2 years plus a year being monitored, and you have to do continual self-development CPD afterwards. But somebody could do like a module of a weekend, God forbid, or a month, and then put themselves as a craniosacral therapist, but they really probably are just a homeopath
Yeah.
or a midwife.
Fair
It's,
enough.
it's
Fair enough.
yeah,
Um,
very
yeah. So,
tricky.
so usually anyway. Thanks for explaining that. And but usually I like to start off by asking people how the lockdown has been for them, and
Okay.
also about whether they've done any pivoting in their business during that time. So, how's it been for you?
A complete sort of 360 turnaround because I had three income streams collapse in one day because couldn't work at the institute, couldn't work at clinic, couldn't do private clients. Um, so you really have to sit back and not panic, first of all, and think. And ironically, osteopaths through the whole time have been allowed to work, but we haven't. We got lumped together with massage therapists and beauty therapists, which is ridiculous. I have scrubs, I have a mask, I have a visor. We've only just this last week been allowed to go back into clinic. And I had people desperate for sessions because one of the things that it really does help with is stress
Yeah. Okay.
and insomnia
Does it help
and
with
pain.
bad backs as well?
Exactly.
Yeah,
All the things
because
that everybody, because everybody's been on Zoom calls.
sat on Zoom for too long, and I have a bit of a bad back because I'm sat on a sofa. But that's because I like to watch telly when in amongst when I'm doing podcast episodes and that sort of thing. I try and have like a work-life balance when I'm enjoying myself all the time, whatever I'm doing. So I sit in my lounge on the settee with the laptop on a coffee table. And
Yeah.
because I work all the hours under the sun anyway, so I don't want to just go to a kitchen table or a dining room table or wherever.
Well, they
Sort of
say ideally, I've got it at the wrong level. It should actually be slightly higher. So
yeah,
mine,
I think mine
that.
should be higher. I should put it on a
Yeah.
book or something. In fact, I might do that. I might put it on a book
Yeah.
because I think I lean down a little bit. I lean
Yeah.
down a bit, and I'm on Zooms like literally 1 hour after another after another. The only thing
Yeah.
I do is when I got a gap, I try. The weather's nice, I'll go out on my bike, or if it's not so nice, I'll do some weights in the house. So I'll get up and do some weights and stuff. But I'm sat down way too long, really. I think.
Yeah, because what's happening now, especially with teenagers, because they're on their phones,
Yeah.
they're really damaging the cervical spine. So
Yeah,
they're
but they're
getting like,
walking around constantly with their head down. In fact, that's a problem. But they're going to get run over by cars one day as well. That's also a problem.
yeah,
And when I'm on my bike, sometimes you really got to be aware of other people when they're on their phones because they're just not
abs-
aware of you.
that's true. That's
Yeah,
absolutely true.
yeah, definitely.
And
So all these sort of modern problems, if you like, are all in your remit.
yeah, I did a lot. And I put on my little uniform. Go into hospitals. I used to work from hospital for a couple of years, but we lost our funding. It was a beautiful hospital of Fladbrook Grove,
Yeah.
really, really good. Brand new clinic, was amazing. There was osteopaths, myself, reflexologist, massage person, and we kept people off the emergency bank because, or their recovery is much quicker because they didn't need to take so much medication. Because it accelerates the natural healing capacity of the body, and once you take the shock out of the system, the body's natural healing capacity kicks in much faster. So
Okay.
it's really, really good for operations. Or I go into a hospital and somebody's had an operation, and I'll put my hands on, and it helps stop all lesions. So, you know, with the hardening of the scar tissue. So of course they heal much quicker, and the pain relief is minimal because they've had me.
Okay,
You know.
fair enough. Now, we've been networking online since early on in the lockdown as part of the
Yeah,
Outstanding Network group. And for people who want to join that group, they can always join the Facebook group
yeah.
page, the Outstanding Network. I didn't know you were in London. I knew you was in England somewhere. But which part of London are you in?
I'm in North London by Hampstead Heath, so
Okay,
I'm at the bottom of Highgate Hill.
okay,
But in London, you travel everywhere, you know.
yeah.
So my clinic is in Islington, just opposite the Hybrid Islington station. Um, yeah, and then if I go and call, you know, I might do private client in Pimlico. I might go to the Brompton Hospital, Royal Marsden if it's a cancer patient. I'm often in and out of University College. I've done people in Royal Free. You know, it all depends.
So you get around London quite a bit then. So
Yeah,
you're a
yeah.
regular on the tube.
As little as possible. I
Oh,
usually go by bus now, or
okay,
walk,
okay.
or Uber.
I was
I'm
going
an
to say,
Uber.
yeah, was you on the tube before the coronavirus, but then you're on bus now, or has that always been the way?
I'd mainly be in Ubers or on Overground, and as little as possible in the tube. But I would go if I had to. But because I work for myself, I'm lucky I could select what times I work or have to travel, usually,
Yes, you avoid
unless
the
I'm
rush hours.
yeah,
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
it's
because
super.
I quite like London. I know a lot of people moan about the tube system in London, but they're on about having one in Wales, a metro system, and I can't wait for them to have it because it's so convenient when you want to get around London. You know, all the different directions you can go and all the different
Well, it's
tubes.
essential. It's
Yeah,
essential because otherwise you gridlock. And if they're and also for people that have to pay the congestion charge, it must cost a fortune. So
that's right.
it's
Yeah, yeah. Well,
really
I used to go to London like 3 times a week when I was the national sales director for a corporate company, and
yeah,
I used to park on the outskirts and catch the tube in on the Piccadilly line coming from
yeah.
Wales, and
Oh,
so I never drive into London because it takes forever to go around the corner.
yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, I was just interested because I obviously haven't been to London during the coronavirus, and I imagine things have
Oh, it was
changed quite
amazing.
a lot.
It was amazing. You know, you could breathe. The birds were happy. There wasn't, you know, when the first plane started to fly, you just go, "Oh, a plane." You know, it was quiet. I suffer a little bit from asthma because of pollution,
Yeah.
so I thought it was amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, well, that's
And the
something I always notice when I go to London from Wales. I always notice that you get like a bit of smoke in your nose and stuff, and it's just you
you
can't
get a
help
headache.
but get you can't help but get the fumes in if you like. It's just such a
Yeah,
busy city. Obviously,
yeah,
Wales is not so much like that, and so and obviously I've noticed the effect even in Wales of if you like the lack of transport and travel and planes and stuff. On the rural side of Wales. So I imagine London's been beautiful.
whereabouts are you based?
I'm based in sort of the Welsh Valleys, just outside Cardiff, Caerphilly sort of area.
Okay,
But
I as a
I was
go
in
on.
Penarth Marina for a while at the beginning of the lockdown as well. That's a lovely part of the world.
Very nice. No, I used to as a child go to Cwmgwrs and Llanelli,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
and
Further into Wales.
when I used to come back as a child, I used to come back speaking Welsh, and
Okay.
my adopted mother used to scream, "Speak English, speak English."
Well, you've done better than me then, because I never spoke Welsh as a kid. We learned it in school, but it had only just come into school. Now it's in all schools now, but it only just come in.
Yeah,
And I did it for a few years, but there was too many consonants and not enough vowels.
yeah,
It was difficult to learn at the time, but I wish I had learned it now. I've learned the Welsh National Anthem, and I know quite a lot of individual words, but
yeah.
I'm not very good at speaking it.
I speak Portuguese. I love languages. I really do.
Okay.
I find it fascinating. Yeah.
Do you do any German?
Ambition, a little,
A
but
little.
also all the silly stuff, you know, like do the
Yeah.
Himmlich shops or Himmlich, depending which region you're from. You know,
Because
all the silly.
yeah, a lot of people I know say Welsh is a bit like German out of all the other European languages, but I can speak a little bit of Italian. I know a bit of French and a bit of Spanish, but those three are all very similar.
Yeah, well, written
So
they are.
They're all feminine and masculine sort of words and stuff like that. And they got E's instead of O's on and stuff. So you can recognise a lot of, once you know, I studied French at GCSE, so once you can know one of the Latin languages, if you like, you can sort of work out the others a bit, like, you know. But German and Portuguese and languages like that, I'm no good at any of them. They're like Welsh.
Now, Portuguese written is exactly the same, but when it's spoken, especially if it's from Portugal, it's very harsh and it sounds like, I don't know, like Romanian or a Slavic language. But if you have the Portuguese from Brazil, it's very soft and swinging and really laid back.
Just like the Brazilians.
Yeah, it's really good.
The language is like the people.
Yeah, I mean, the whole attitude to life. I mean, we're only just getting into juicing. When I used to travel to Brazil, the first thing I'd do, I'd get off the plane at breakfast time and go and have a black coffee and mamão com laranja. A mamão com laranja is like a big papaya and
orange.
And with orange.
Yeah, it was something with orange because the naranja is similar to Spanish.
Yeah, and what they do, they had juices for every single ailment or anything you wanted to boost the health for. Like they had one called the calmante. Calmante means the heart calmer. So they mix orange juice with maracujá, something in English, passion fruit.
Okay.
And it stops the heart having palpitations. So they had everything. And this is years ago. This is in the early 80s. And now we're starting to do juicing here. But they do avocado and, you know, whatever, beetroot, beterraba and carrot, you know.
Yeah, so, good, yeah. And what's the sort of background? How come you ended up going into craniosacral therapy?
Oh, I had a very, very bad riding accident when I was in Portugal.
Okay.
I seem to be, I ended up living on a farm with 31 horses, which I adored. And I used to go and help out in another quinta, or, you know, it was a very posh quinta with a very, very big indoor arena with some beautiful horses, like very, you're not really meant to ride them, but because the master, it's the alta escola, it's the high dressage for the bull ring, because he was a master of the horses, he knew my dedication, so he said, oh, you can ride this stallion or that horse or that, and they're all like really top-notch horses. So I was being taught and trained without stirrups and just using my muscles, and all's good, all is good with the world. And I did what
crowd shows.
You know, nobody, but what I didn't realize, I had a little visitor who was very jealous and was watching me. And this man, or young man, was wearing red one day, and he decided to frighten the horse when I was doing a counterclockwise, no stirrups, leaning in, and I went flying. And the walls of a indoor arena or picadero are like that, thank goodness. So the first thing I told them was, get me on my feet, push my knees in, get the horse out, because it will go mad. Because a thoroughbred horse does not want to hurt you, not when they're like sensitive like that. I said, get the horse out, don't let him, you know, smell my pain. Got the horse out, but then I knew I'd done something really terrible, so I ended up 3.5 months paralyzed from the waist down in Faro Hospital.
So when hospital as well.
Yeah, so once I got out, I thought, well, I better learn what I've done to myself. And so I originally studied shiatsu with some top shiatsu masters, Wataru Hashi from Japan, Sol Goodman from the States, Matsunaga, who's Japanese, but she lives in Switzerland. And then from there, I had a very thriving shiatsu business, used to do celebrities and everything, fly all over the place. And then I realized that I had a problem with one of my knees, and I presumed it was because of the accident, but it was something hereditary, I found out later. So I stopped doing that, and I went into retail, high-end retail and property. But then I
doing what? Don't skip that. That's interesting for me. I'm interested in entrepreneurs. So doing what?
I used to run the Royal Bridal Registry for Thomas Good in Mayfair.
Okay.
Doing all the hoi polloi and celebrities and
royal riding.
No, as in weddings.
Oh,
like
royal. Okay. So
Davos of Greece or whoever.
So what was you like a registrar type thing?
No, I organised their wedding lists. I sorted out what the guests could buy for them,
Okay.
what they wanted on their list.
So like Harrods lists.
Sorry?
Like Harrods lists, basically.
A
The stuff they could buy.
bit more exclusive than Harrods.
Okay. So,
So it's called an emporium. That's how exclusive it was. It's in Mayfair. And, you know, when people visited, sometimes you'd have to have people waiting at the corner of that department and then give a signal that certain people could go in or couldn't go in, depending on who
is
was.
that like posher than Liberties or similar to Liberties type thing?
Similar, but bit more,
Okay.
more. It's not known so much because unless you're in the know, it's a crystal, porcelain, and china, mainly an antique.
All right, yeah. And was that your business, or would you work for it?
No. I work there.
You work there, yeah. Okay. What sort of people did you bump into whilst working there? Can you say, or
just all the known celebrities? Some of them are very, very gracious. Especially Princess Diana, she was very gracious.
That's what I was thinking about. Did you get people like Princess Diana and what's it, Dodi Fayed and people like that, and you know, just top the high end of the A list, if you like.
Yeah, and you know, Versace and Elton John, and you know, lots and lots of people.
Did you get to speak to them, or just serve them, or what was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was the best person you spoke to who surprised you?
Oh, surprised me. I think Princess Diana would come high up on the list. Yeah, definitely. But I thought
this is a while ago, though. Yeah, this is a while ago then.
Yeah, in the 90s.
Okay. Yeah.
Early.
Fair enough. Was this somebody who you met and you didn't like them? They surprised you as well? Maybe they weren't as nice as you thought they might have been?
You always, it's funny, you get some people that are going through so much stress in their lives, they can be absolutely vile to shop assistants. And I remember walking into a department, they weren't vile to me, don't get me wrong.
No.
And I saw this person being literally floored by this woman. And I thought, I've got to diffuse this. Now, I don't think, and I was allowed to offer champagne or whatever, but I thought, I've got to stop this now because this woman is just spinning, you know, she's just going,
just tearing chunks out of someone for no reason.
And so I just walked straight up to her. Would you like a cup of tea?
That'll always do the job.
God, yes. And I said, do come this way. Why don't you come down to my...
just having a bad day.
You know, it's much quieter and I'm sure I'll be able to help you. So I sort of dragged her down and everybody's going, you know. And I had the knack of diffusing a situation and clocking what was really going on. And she'd had a nightmare of a mother-in-law and her porcelain wasn't ready, and you know, it was just
it was that pressure release, you know, so somebody was going to get it, like, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in sales for a long time, so I'm used to dealing with those sort of situations regular, like, you know. But I'm always interested in that type of.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you think,
experience.
now, what's really going on here? Are you really that mean? I don't think you are. You've just lost it. Something's tipped you over the edge.
Yeah. Usually, you know, you've just left a bad phone call in the car and gone into the shopping, or you know, you're under pressure because you know something's happened and you might not meet a deadline, and then you happen to face, you know, a situation that just come at the wrong time. You know, that's usually the case, like, you know.
I mean, but it was a totally different world. You know, there would be such incredible gifts sometimes on the list, and you go, and the person sitting here going, "Do you think I've given them enough?" I said, "Madam, I'm sure they'd be thrilled."
It's like a 10 grand a 10 grand trinket, like, you know.
You know, literally, you know, or £10,000 worth of porcelain, or you know, whatever. You know, one glass was 150 quid. You know, so do you think 12's enough? You know.
I know.
And then you get to the situation, and this is the thing that I love doing there. On reflection, is you'd have people that would have, say, stately homes, and if you know anything about that situation, it sounds very grand, but they pay a fortune for the upkeep.
Oh yeah, it's hard. Well, you see them on the telly, on the program, sometimes doing fundraising and stuff, just to keep, you know, when they're trying to modernise the rooms and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't collapse, all the ceilings don't come down. So they still had to, there was some people that would inherit a pile, but they still had to do ambassadorial dinners, and they don't know what they're going to do. They're really short of cash. And I had a knack of saying, what service do you have? And they might have say, 10 pieces of a really, really expensive service. I'll say heron, which is a very expensive porcelain from Hungary. I say, what color? And I said, okay, let's do this. And I'd find another company that was Italian, the same type of porcelain, same shape, but just with a tiny gold ridge, which was a quarter of the price. I said, well, look, let's mix the dinner plates with those pretty ones on top. So you've got the pretty ones for dessert, or big tureens, which are much more economical. So then they have a full table to serve all the guests without
Yeah.
breaking the bank.
It
And I
would
love
be about a third less or half less, like, you know, because of the
a
mix and
lot
matching.
less, a lot
Yeah.
less. And even when they get invited to very important events and they've got to give a gift, and I know they might be tight on budget, I'll find things that they can give that look sumptuous, but
Yeah.
not too, in your face, but not costing a fortune either.
No, because
And
they do say in life you get what you pay for, and that's true in some things. But there's also, you know, sometimes it's just you're paying sometimes for the brand or the packing order of the products, and sometimes there's no
yeah,
difference in quality whatsoever.
absolutely,
There's just a difference
absolutely.
in which one's popular with the people with the money and which one's not so
And
popular.
also the thing is, because it could be boxed in a Thomas Good box with all the regalia. Thomas Good is a little bit like Fortnum and Mason's.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Think of that end.
Yeah,
So
I know the sort of spectrum. When I was in a corporate world, I went to visit the guy, the Duke of Westminster, who owns Mayfair. I
oh
went to
yeah,
his office, which is he owns like pretty much all of Mayfair.
everything. Yeah.
And so I got an idea. You know, a lot of people in Wales wouldn't have an idea of what he was talking about because they're not used to that sort of high end. But I have been to a few places. Where, you know, I've been to Liberties and a few of the different department stores and stuff, and I spent quite a bit of times in Harrods and stuff, just because when you go to London and you're not from London, you go to places like that because you just want to check them out, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, things like some of the people I do appreciate that are still living, like Elton John, like when he knew that the company was struggling, say there'd been a crisis or whatever, he'd come in and spend a fortune on candles. I mean, a fortune.
Yeah,
Or he'd make sure his friends turned up and bought a whole couple of dinner services. Do you know what I mean? He was
he's very
really,
generous, isn't he, Alton? He is quite a
really,
generous man. Yeah,
yeah. So,
yeah, very
and
lavish as well.
yeah, yeah. So, and the other company I worked for was originally based in Cadogan Square, and that was for property, and it was a boutique property company, so only one office, but they had 11% of the market, just to show you how powerful they were.
Yeah,
11%, one office,
yeah.
just the high end,
Old
and then
school, started a long time ago.
not that long ago.
No?
It was Chesterfield and Co., but they were swallowed up by Savills, and that's when
Okay.
I parted company because the
Oh, yeah.
standards weren't the same.
Yeah, I've seen
And
both of those. I've heard of both of those, and I think I've seen Savills. I can't remember if I've seen Chesterfield or Co. You know, the auction
Chesterfield and
houses.
Co. was only one office in Cadogan Square. Then it moved to Brompton Road near the Oratory, and then that became a Savills office, and
Yeah.
that's when I left. It was awful.
Okay.
Once Savills, in fact, the partners took me out to dinner and said, "What can we do, Sharon? I know you don't like it. Let's do, whatever you want, we'll give you." It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was hideous,
So
hideous.
what was you doing for them?
I was like an office manager for the rentals department, but I got all the sales department talking. And I had a knack again of finding people that really were top end, even if
Yeah.
they were in jeans. I knew that who just had a knack. I used to
You,
earn quite a lot of money, with commissions because
yeah.
I passed them on to whatever
You had quite
department.
you had quite a varied career, mind.
Well, I'm 65. Of course, I have.
Yeah. You know, I suppose you don't look 65, nowhere near it. So
I
I.
don't think it either, but that's what people forget. We worked in those days. I was already very successful when I was 18. I was running a window display for Wallace Fashion, be flown all over the place.
Yeah.
I had a team of people, and I had a queue waiting to join my team.
Yeah,
You know,
it's still, you know, an unusual sort of path. You know, it's not a typical path. You know, I know, you know, when you're older, you've had a lot of experience. I'm only in my 40s and I've had a lot of experience as well. But still, some of the things, you know,
well, if you
they're
think
not
about it,
connected.
I
You know.
worked. I went to art college. I
Yeah.
got honours in art and design, was offered a place at Liberty's for work experience. They thought I was part of the team, so they offered me a job immediately. So from the 70s, I was working in Liberty's of Regent Street. From
Yeah.
there, I was headhunted by every fashion house afterwards to do their windows, including Selfridges, and it got blown up when I was there. I just left and got on the bus, and my door was the one that had the bomb
Yeah.
when took out most of Oxford Street. Um, yeah, I was and then after that I thought, you know what, I just think I need a break from here, and that's when I decided to go to Portugal.
Yeah.
So then I lived very well in Portugal. I was doing modeling, fashion, film, um, and then I split up with my partner and I went down to the south and I started doing PR for private clubs or restaurants and doing very, very well, living
Yeah.
the life of Riley.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously then you learned the Portuguese language, so
Yeah,
that's what you ended up going over to Brazil, I suppose,
yeah.
because people once you learn Portuguese, you go to Brazil.
Yeah, so I was always studying like anatomy and studying medical stuff, and also involved in theatre because I knew I was good in front of camera, and
Yeah.
I've done theatre work in just off the West End, Bloomsbury Theatre, whatever. I've been on
If
stage.
you're in your 60s, then you must have been around London in the swinging 60s.
70s.
In the 70s, yeah, that was.
70s was really amazing, and then I left London. I mean, yeah, I knew like all the Merry Helvins and Piggy and all that clan. All the models we used to hang out all together. We'd all
Yeah,
go
it was a
clubbing.
very sort of vibrant, colourful time back then in the 70s London.
Amazing. For
Yeah,
anybody else, I think it was amazing. And then
yeah.
I left, and then I think the crash happened.
I
So
was
it's
brought.
going.
My sort of heydays, I suppose, was the 90s, and the 90s was a great time as well for the UK. It was all that Brit pop and stuff, and there was quite a lot of stuff going on in London at the
Oh,
time then.
I could see you doing madness, all that kind of stuff. That's not really my thing. I was more into Latin American stuff, and at that time I had a Brazilian dance troupe, so I was always in Brazil,
Okay,
working
yeah,
with Brazilian
always
artists,
had that Latino
promoting
flavour.
promoting Brazilian culture here in London. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, nice, nice. So yeah, tell everyone a little bit about the service that you do, then how it works. What you can do online, what you can't do online, all that sort of stuff.
Well, obviously, the mentoring side you can do online, and I love to empower people. My thing is when somebody comes to a session with me, whether it's a verbal session or a hands-on session with actual physical craniosacral therapy, I like to help them feel reconnected and in control of their body again. So it might be advice on how to manage their time, their life, their health, make suggestions to see other therapists if they're long distance. But initially, if I can get my hands on somebody, usually it might take about 6 sessions, but they will be completely different. I've had people change their whole career because it gave them space to reevaluate their life. I've had people that haven't told me they've just stopped taking diamorphine because they were in so much pain. And they said, "Oh, I'm not in pain anymore." And by the way, after the 5th session, I didn't take diamorphine.
Yeah,
But I always work, if somebody's on medication, I always work along with their doctor.
yeah.
That's a prerequisite.
What's the difference between what you do and say a chiropractor, which I think people
It's
have
more
heard of more.
mechanical. Chiropractor or an osteopath is mechanical. It has its place, and sometimes things need it.
Yeah,
But what I tend to do is when the body's ready, it will go back naturally. And it also has a very unique plan that will tell you exactly what it wants to do in exactly the right order to have the best benefit for that person. And also, you don't want to create a sort of a healing trauma, if you like. So things can be like silly things like you get somebody coming with some difficulties and they go on the table and you think, this is weird, this is old. And it'd be something from even birth patterning that they've held in their body all those years. So usually people in their 50s and above, because what they do, they whip the baby out, cut the umbilical cord really quickly when it's still being used by the baby. So all that shock is left in the system.
yeah,
So the body's trying to deal with the shock and deal with everyday knocks and bumps and whatever. Because very often we'll deal with things intellectually. So we might have had a near miss in an accident, falling off a horse, falling off your bike, skiing accident, whatever. You deal with it intellectually, the fracture or whatever. But in the tissue, every cell has memory. So until somebody palpates and sorts all that out and helps the nervous system regulate itself again, you're running on red alert or fight and flight, if you like, or freeze.
Yeah.
You'll do fight, flight, or freeze. And that's the most natural instinct for the body to protect itself and to keep functioning.
Yeah.
So with craniosacral therapy, biodynamic, the palpation skills, you listen to the body and just help. It's almost like if you were in office work, I'd say, think of a computer doing a defrag. Literally, your body's going to relax so much, it's going to literally reboot itself. So you're not, like throwing things all over the place. You're actually doing it's in a much more smoother, coherent manner. Or I say, like, when I'm doing a spinal hold, I'll say, well, it's like old-fashioned dial-up or Morse code. Instead of doing old-fashioned dial-up or Morse code, you're going to have streaming. And so the body can communicate properly and heal.
You're going to increase the power of the body and the cells to sort of repair themselves.
Exactly. Because you've got this beautiful cerebral spinal fluid that bathes and protects the brain and should flow down the neck and along the spine, and then it nourishes, and it's also for communication. You've got channels of communication. So if you've got any tightness here, and these are the very, very powerful muscles leading up to the TMJ, your jawline. Yeah, if they're all tense, I'm fine. But they're walking around like that, and then they're on the computer. You're cutting off you're literally cutting off oxygen and blood supply to the brain.
Yeah.
So, I do my little stress buster exercises to people, and
Yeah, I imagine there's a big demand for stress busting in a big city like London.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's lots of there's different strokes for different folks. It's not the be all and end all, but it is one way, and it's a good way.
Yeah.
And it's non-intrusive, and it's client-led, and you don't have to take your clothes off. And I've done things in the side of a traffic accident. I've done things in a big conference, in the back of a hall, in Olympia with all the blaring noise and lights. It still works. Or in a beautiful Zen, Buddhas everywhere, amazing space that's a private gym for a client in Lisbon.
Yeah.
And it obviously works there. You know
So
what I mean?
how does the mentoring work then? You sort of like describe different ways of people changing their habits, if you like, to be able to help their body to heal?
Well, it's just like having a conversation with them, finding out what's going on in their life, how I can support them. I can recommend different techniques to help them gain more control and feel like they're gaining more control, whether they're having palpitations with their heart, like I say, insomnia. There's lots of techniques now available, especially for stressed out executives, so they can monitor their own health and take responsibility and stop popping pills all the time.
Yeah. Oh,
it's
good.
really important.
And how do people get in touch with you if they're interested, if they come across you on YouTube or on my podcast and they'd like to know more? Where's the best place for them to go?
Well, I do have a website, but people say it's easier if you go www.connecttohealth.net, not .com. For some reason, although I've got the domain.
You've got both domains, because I had to look. I had to look at your website.
There's there. I'm learning how to use the internet, so I will be setting up a proper connection thing from there eventually. But I've also, as you say, info@connecttohealth.com is the email that comes straight through to my private email. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I do have a page on Facebook, and I will get back to you.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, then. Well, I'm conscious that we've both got other things we've got to go on and do. So I can't keep you forever, although it's been a great chat.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. And it's like a can of worms. There's so much more, and I just really, it's so important now to just pause, take a breath, because most people are running around like a hamster in a wheel, And also, I think even Pat says it in the Outstanding Network, don't just rush back in there. Just, take a breath, find out what was working for you, what wasn't, and make a decision. Integrate some good, positive, systems as well.
Well, yeah, definitely. And thanks for coming on the podcast and for sharing some of your information.
It's fabulous.
And what my plan is the first chat is a chat about general, you know, lockdown and general business and that sort of thing. And then once I've gone through all my network, I'm going to go back around again and we're going to deep dive on something.
Okay.
So like you say, we've only just touched the surface, but we can.
Can I just suggest on YouTube there is a lovely little video, like animation as well. And if you just go, what is craniosacral therapy? And then CSTA. And it's the governing registering body that I belong to. And they have a lovely little 3-minute video. And it's the best way to describe it. It's really great.
Okay, there we are then. So hopefully once they watch this YouTube video, they can jump onto that one then.
There you go.
So yeah, thanks a lot for coming on the podcast and
You're
for sharing your
welcome.
information. And yeah, look forward to seeing you at the next Outstanding Network.
I'll see you on Wednesday.
Yeah, all the best.